Countdown Till Christmas is brought to you by Princess Grams. Personalized, magical, musical greetings from your favorite characters. Learn more and send one at princessgrams.com. Well, hello there. I'm very happy to see you again. How are you doing today? Well, Sasha is in bed with her brother, Humphrey. You haven't seen him before, so I thought I would show you both of them, Sasha and Humphrey. I know they're as excited as I am to decorate, sing, and share another story with you today. And why don't we find out what's in our Advent calendar for today, December 18th? Oh! Do you recognize what this is? It's the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Well, where do you think we should put the Eiffel Tower on our tree? How about right there? Well, this Eiffel Tower ornament, of course, reminds me of France. And it's hard to think about France and not think of delicious food. I especially like the kinds of things you find at boulangeries or bakeries, things like breads, croissants, and desserts. I wonder if you've ever had any of those. And there are some very delicious French desserts made especially at Christmas time. And my favorite is the bûche de Noël, or the Yule log. And that's inspired by the real custom of a real wooden Yule log like they have in Latvia, which we talked about on December 11th. Now, I did not make the one in this photo, but I do have a tradition of baking a bûche de Noël every Christmas. It has a rolled sponge cake, chocolate whipped cream in the middle, and a rich chocolate ganache on the outside. I wish I could share some with you. Do you have any special desserts that you make at Christmas time? Well, do you remember when we talked about Christmas markets in Germany? That was on December 12th. And the largest and probably the best known Christmas market of all of them is an area that is now part of France called Alsace. And that's right next to Germany. So Alsace combines things from French and German cultures. And partly because of their famous market, the city of Strasbourg is known as the capital of Christmas. In the Alsatian language, the market is called the Christkindlesmarkt. It officially began in the year 1570 in the Cathedral Square, and it now stretches across the whole city. Well, I bet you would like to practice wishing someone a Merry Christmas in French. And the way you do that is to say, Joyeux Noël. You want to try it with me? It's joyeux, 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 Noël. Noël. Joyeux Noël. Joyeux Noël. Très bien. Well, another wonderful thing that comes from France are some of the Christmas carols that we're used to singing in English. And we've sung some of them together before in our times together here. One's like, O come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel. And also, angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains. Those carols and many others come from France. And would you like to keep singing with me now? Well, today we're going to review two of the songs we've already learned. I hope you like these ones as much as I do. We'll start with O Christmas Tree, and then we'll sing our most recent song, Jingle Bells. So we'll sing each song one time, okay? Are you ready? Dum bum. And as a reminder for O Christmas Tree, the lyrics are, O Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. Which you repeat. Not only green when summer's here, but in the coldest time of year, Oh, Christmas tree. Okay, ready? Dum bum. Oh, Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. Oh, Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. Not only green when summer's here, but in the coldest time of year. Oh, Christmas tree, how lovely are thy branches. Very nice. And now how about jingle bells? If you have your bells with you, feel free to jingle them. Dum bum. Dashing, ready? Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Ha, 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 bells on bobtail ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Great job. Thank you again for singing with me. And tomorrow we'll start learning a new song. But right now, it's time for our story of the day. It's called Little Gretchen and the Wooden Shoe, and it was written by Elizabeth Harrison, based on what is believed to be a German legend. Once upon a time, a long time ago, far away across the great ocean, in a country called Germany, there could be seen a small log hut on the edge of a great forest, whose fir trees extended for miles and miles to the north. This little house, made of heavy hewn logs, had but one room in it. A rough pine door gave entrance to this room, and a small square window admitted the light. At the back of the house was built an old-fashioned stone chimney, out of which in winter usually curled a thin blue smoke, showing that there was not much fire within. Small as the house was, it was large enough for the two people who lived in it. I want to tell you a story today about these two people. One was an old gray-haired woman, so old that the little children of the village nearly half a mile away often wondered whether she had come into the world with the huge mountains and the great fir trees which stood like giants back of her small hut. Her face was wrinkled all over with deep lines, which, if the children could only have read aright, would have told them of many years of cheerful, happy self-sacrifice, of loving, anxious watching beside sick beds, of quiet endurance of pain, of many a day of hunger and cold, and 1,000 deeds of unselfish love for other people. But of course they could not read this strange handwriting. They only knew that she was old and wrinkled, and stooped as she walked. None of them seemed to fear her, for her smile was always cheerful, and she had a kindly word for each of them if they chanced to meet her on her way to and from the village. With this old woman lived a very little girl. So bright and happy was she that travelers who passed by the lonesome little house on the edge of the forest often thought of a sunbeam when they saw her. These two people were known in the village as Granny Goodyear and Little Gretchen. The winter had come, and the frost had snapped off many of the smaller branches from the pine trees in the forest. Gretchen and Granny were up by daybreak each morning. After their simple breakfast of oatmeal, Gretchen would run to the little closet and fetch Granny's old woolen shawl, which seemed almost as old as Granny herself. Gretchen always claimed the right to put the shawl over Granny's head, even though she had to climb onto the wooden bench to do it. After carefully pinning it under Granny's chin, she gave her a goodbye kiss, and Granny started out for her morning's work in the forest. This work was nothing more or less than the gathering up of the twigs and branches which the autumn winds and winter frosts had thrown upon the ground. These were carefully gathered into a large bundle, which Granny tied together with a strong linen band. She then managed to lift the bundle to her shoulder and trudged off to the village with it. Here she sold it for kindling wood to the people of the village. Sometimes she would only get a few pence each day, and sometimes a dozen or more, but on this money, little Gretchen and she managed to live. They had their home, and the forest kindly furnished the wood for the fire, which kept them warm in cold weather. In the summertime, Granny had a little garden at the back of the hut where she raised, with little Gretchen's help, a few potatoes and turnips and onions. These she carefully stored away for winter use. To this meager supply, the pennies gained by selling the twigs from the forest added the oatmeal for Gretchen and a little black coffee for Granny. Meat was a thing they never thought of having. It cost too much money. Still, Granny and Gretchen were very happy because they loved each other dearly. Sometimes Gretchen would be left alone all day long in the hut because Granny would have to do some work in the village after selling her bundle of sticks and twigs. It was during these long days that little Gretchen had taught herself to sing the song which the wind sang to the pine branches. In the summertime, she learned the chirp and twitter of the birds, until her voice might almost be mistaken for a bird's voice. She learned to dance as the swaying shadows did, and even to talk to the stars, which shone through the little square window when Granny came home too late or too tired to talk. Sometimes, when the weather was fine, or her Granny had an extra bundle of newly knitted stockings to take to the village, she would let little Gretchen go along with her. It chanced that one of these trips to the town came just the week before Christmas, and Gretchen's eyes were delighted by the sight of the lovely Christmas trees which stood in the window of the village store. It seemed to her that she would never tire of looking at the knit dolls, the woolly lambs, the little wooden shops with their queer painted men and women in them, and all the other fine things. She had never owned a plaything in her whole life. Therefore, toys which you and I would not think much of seemed to her to be very beautiful. That night, after their supper of baked potatoes was over, and little Gretchen had cleared away the dishes and swept up the hearth, because Granny dear was so tired, she brought her own small wooden stool and placed it very near Granny's feet, and sat down upon it, folding her hands in her lap. Granny knew that this meant that she wanted to talk about something, so she smilingly laid away the large Bible which she had been reading and took up her knitting, which was as much to say, "Well, Gretchen dear, Granny is ready to listen." "Granny," said Gretchen slowly, "it's almost Christmas time, isn't it?" "Yes, dearie," said Granny. "Only 5 more days now." Then she sighed, but little Gretchen was so happy that she took no notice of Granny's sigh. "What do you think, Granny, I'll get this Christmas?" said she, looking up eagerly into Granny's face. "Ah, child, child," said Granny, shaking her head. "You will have no Christmas this year. We are too poor for that." "Oh, but Granny," interrupted little Gretchen, "think of all the beautiful toys we saw in the village today. Surely Santa Claus has sent enough for every little child." Well, I'm sorry that we need to end our story here for today, but tomorrow we're going to find out more about little Gretchen and whether or not she gets any Christmas presents this year. Well, why don't we end our time together today with a French Christmas carol? And this one is called Il est né le divin enfant. And in English, sometimes it's translated as He is born, the Holy Child, or the Heavenly Child. It's not that familiar in English, I don't think, though, so I hope, even if you don't know it, that you'll enjoy it. And basically, it talks about Jesus being born and that being celebrated with music like oboes and bagpipes even, and that the prophets had foretold Jesus coming, and now it's finally here. So, il est né, he is born. Il est né le divin enfant, jouez au bois, résonnez musette. Il est né le divin enfant, chantons tous son avènement. Depuis plus de 4000 ans, nous le promettaient les prophètes. Depuis plus de 4000 ans, nous attendions cet heure temps. Il est né le divin enfant, jouez au bois, résonnez musette. Il est né le divin enfant, chantons tous son avènement. Well, thank you again so much for coming to see me today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day until I see you again tomorrow. Bye. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. That not only encourages me, it also makes a big difference to my channel and helps others find videos they would enjoy too. Wishing you a joyful season and a happy day. I'll see you tomorrow.